Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Waldeboro Planning Board, February 22, 24. We have a quorum. We have four of our members here today, and John is listening in online. Item 2 is adjustments to the agenda. Everybody have any adjustments? Really want to stand up and be the vice chair? All right, citizen comments. Anybody here that's not related to one of these applications? I'm assuming no. Okay, so let's just move on to site review then. Item 4A, the final plan for the 7-lot subdivision at Old Augusta. Anybody here related to that? That's you. Sure, yeah.
So thanks for meeting tonight. My son Brian just had his first baby,
Oh.
so they sent in the B team. And yeah, so anyways, I'm pretty much up to speed on what's going on. I'm the other member of Bucktail LLC, so it's Brian and my son.
What's your name?
Rick Ray, RHEA. Yeah. William also, but I go by Rick.
So we've changed around the subdivision a little bit the last time. I guess why don't we start with the changes to the lot configuration and this you sold one of the lots.
Yep. Yeah, we heard some feedback from people in the community about trying to keep that lot as one contiguous piece. And we were able to strike a deal with Susan, and we've conveyed that to her.
Great.
And part of that change is that, you know, you can only have the option to be able to convey one lot out. So we included the other property that was originally going to be part of Maine Woods and Waters, so that the Blueberry Field lot is now lot 7 in the subdivision. So instead of 10 lots, now we have 7, and lot 7 is the parcel, 31 acre parcel.
Okay.
How many acres is that? Sorry, it's too tiny. How many acres is lot 7? Can you have about?
31, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 31.25.
Brian, this may sound like a dumb question. You see that right there, that page, is that right in the middle? It says approximate denser disposal. It almost looks like a nuclear or radiation
Oh, yeah.
plaque, which I see in my work. That isn't that, is it?
That's the symbol, kind of statewide accepted symbol for a soil test.
Of course, okay, so it's not.
No waste or anything.
Got a list of items that's some conditions rather that we had put on the preliminary approval.
Yep, I see those.
All right. So condition 1 was the planning board approval block, which has been added to the drawing.
Yep.
As well as a revision block and conditions of approval. Block. Somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. So that's all there. The Maine Woods and Waters, we just discussed that. The contour lines on the map, they are shown. Sort of hard to read anything on the 11 by 17s, but on the full-size drawing, I know that they're there. Yep. Statement from Fire EMS.
My understanding with that is that there was some discussion directly between
I checked in with Paul, the fire chief, as well as Derek Booker, the EMS chief, and John Lash, the police chief. None of them had any issues because they're using existing public roads and they're already close to some water bodies, so there's no issue from any of them.
All right, listing the net developable acreage on each lot, is that on these drawings?
It
Or-
is, it's,
It is to the left of the revision block.
Oh, got it, okay, perfect. The minimum lot size in this zone is gonna be 40? It's
80,000 square feet per lot.
There's no, is there a limit on the developable area? There is, right? The lot just has to be that big.
Right.
Okay. Lot 6. 2.6, okay. Show where the stream protection is at lot 10,
that's no longer applicable.
right?
But I'll note that it is actually still shown on the very bottom, close to the Robin and David Pilgrim lot. It's the pink highlight.
It's no longer lot 10.
Right. Okay. The archaeology letter, I'm pretty sure I saw that in here.
Yep.
I got a quick question on that. I see the word also, and I don't know, next, maybe you can help. Say that you get a clean bill of health, that it's okay, but what happens if, when you're digging or constructing or moving further, and you do come across something of archaeological value, what happens at that point?
This information is based on what the Maine Historic Preservation Commission has at the time. If there's a new discovery made, then they can ask the landowner if they can come down, take a little bit more of an inspection, but it's up to them at that point.
Just seems like I'm seeing like this archaeological, like an American, so forth. I'm starting to pop up.
Again, this is based on the information they have. I had to do a very similar thing with Depot Street for the Maine Health Building and Community Center discussion. I had to do that very same thing, and they said they don't see anything. But if we find something mid-dig, then it's gonna put a hold on that project. Same thing with whoever builds up there.
But Maine Historic Preservation Committee, how recent is there as when they reconnoitered the area? How close to the present have they said deemed that site safe?
Probably varies.
Yeah, this is based on any past findings as well as just records they have in, I mean, they kind of pulled it's like Billy Maxwell with the time capsule that happened at 80 grade.
Yes.
All he had to go on was one sentence in Jasper Stahl's book, and they found the time capsule. That's kind of the Historic Commission. They'll have whatever minor thing to say something happened over there.
But they were out at the site.
They were out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he dug around and did multiple test pits and
Really?
Yeah.
Surprised. I always thought that was basically limited to going through their existing records and seeing.
well, it is, and then if they have any reason, well, maybe there's something out there, we don't know. And we do the phase 1 study, which is what we did. And
Yeah, with metal detectors?
Hmm?
Do they use metal detectors when they?
no,
go
they
in?
were out there with shovels and like sifters and, looking for tiny arrowhead fragments or any, whatever, but
It's been on to something if they went out for that study.
what's that?
They must have been injured. There must have been something going on up there. If there's
Yeah, in the area,
Yeah.
in this area, they found things before, so. They went along the most likely areas where something would occur, which is down by the river on maybe some knolls by the river. They have kind of an idea where that might have occurred. And they didn't find anything, so. And if they had, I assume that they would maybe cordon off a particular area that, that had potential additional
I'm
things,
wondering if
but.
John can hear him. Your paperwork is covering your microphone. I'm just wondering if it's. You're
Sorry.
talking.
Yes, I can hear. Thank you.
Can you hear it,
I
John?
don't know what that was.
Okay,
Yeah, I was told last time that, this type of mic that's in front of me isn't good up there, so I have like the aerial one right above you, and then I got the surround sound one, so
Oh,
that better start figuring.
Sorry about that.
oh, the aerial. I don't know.
Okay, item 10 was the soils map, which you have attached here along with the drainage class of the soils.
Yep.
All this looks fine. And then the last thing was a waiver request form, this is the waiver plan. Is that the letter you have that?
Yeah. Stormwater and financial technical capacity.
Already discussed those, you're not constructing anything, so the stormwater is on the future developers. And you're not performing anything, so. The same technical capacity doesn't matter. Okay. I think that's everything that we've been looking for. So I guess we can go down through our checklist here. On the first page, it's already approved. 3.5.2.
I have a question though about this format. If we do a preliminary. We vote preliminary applications?
You approved the preliminary last time.
Okay, but do we generally do that? We don't necessarily do that,
Not always.
No, so.
but this one we did.
Yes, subdivisions and regular site plans are different. The subdivision specifically is a 3-step process, whereas the regular site plan, like the one on Robinson, usually could be done in 1 or 2 nights at most, but it doesn't have to do a pre-application. It could just be submitted and approved that night. But this is something that does have to be 3 steps.
Did it say that in the minutes? That it was, all those things were approved? Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, I mean, I believe you, but some of these things I don't remember specifically. When,
Usually what the board has done has been, when we've gone through a whole section, there'll be a quick motion to approve it. But I don't think that happened last time. Instead, you read through everything and just said it was completed at the end. So sort of did a blank approval. I think it was Brendan motioned to approve with Johnny seconding, and it was a 3-2 split. But that's why I note everything is approved in preliminary, and then any blank area should just be discussed again, because there's this change from a 10 lot to a 7 lot subdivision.
okay,
Yeah.
I also have some thoughts I'd like to share about the subdivision before we kind of get to the end of whatever we're doing. So whatever.
And I think if it's what we talked about, it would be under section 12.8, and I do have it blank. Because that one and 12.7.2 would need the board to just go through it again, because that's final plan submission items.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Should we have our discussion first before we go through all this? Why don't we do that? Why don't you go ahead with your comments?
Yeah, I was opposed to this project, at the beginning, and I'm still somewhat opposed to it. There's a couple of reasons why I am, and I'd like to share those with you. First and foremost, I think that this is a very sensitive, environmentally sensitive piece of property, because you have Alfred Brook running through that, Stream Brook running through that property, and when I calculated this is a 98 acre lot, of which only 20 acres of it are net developable lot of pieces of land, which is only 20% of the entire piece of property. That's a very small amount of property that's actually you can use to develop. So 70 acres of that, or 80 acres of that essentially, can't be touched because they're either wetlands or vernal pools or part of the stream or setbacks as, you know, as it may be. So I find it a little odd that we as a board, that allowing a lot to be developed when there's that much of part of the lot, 80% of the lot can't even be developed because it's vulnerable, environmentally vulnerable.
Is that,
Now,
does that percentage include, lot? The
that doesn't include, that's taking away the lot that was bought by Susan Morris.
right. So
It's just
the
the lot,
original-
what you have right now is what you're presenting tonight is 98 acres. It was larger than that before when you included in the other acreage of that. So
But
I
did you
find
add,
that ratio is, it's kind of off.
did you add
and
back
of-
in
of
the
that-
Blueberry Field?
Of that, only 2.6% of the entire property is moderately well drained. 2.6%, the entire lot is moderately well. The rest of it is either excessive well drained, which means it has a lot of slope to it, or and 89% of it is somewhat poorly or poorly drained. That's all, I mean, that's almost all the property, which means that when anyone who's going to build on that, all of that is either water is going to sit where they're building or it's going to run directly into that stream, whatever the effluent from their septic systems or their fertilizers or whatever there is that they're going to be using. You know, it seems to me not a good place to have a subdivision of any type, frankly. And of all places to need a storm water plan, it would be here. But of course, it doesn't apply here in this instance because you're not building anything. You're only applying for subdivision. But when they come to subdivide, when they come to actually buy and then build, I mean, where's all that water going to go when it doesn't drain? I mean, you know, let the buyer beware. I mean, that there's going to be a real problem for them, I think. And so that was my first, you know, 3 points. The next point is that, you know, while aesthetic issues are difficult to assess, and I brought this up in the original meeting, are difficult to assess, but that there's a scenic element to that land. Now, fortunately, in our case, Susan Morris stepped in and purchased, you know, a bulk of where I had the biggest issue with dividing that sort of field up into all these separate lots and having, they're long and deep and then end up in the brook. But I find it a little odd that we're depending on a angel investor come in to rescue a piece of land that I don't think should have been actually personally approved for to be developed to begin with. So those are my issues with the lot itself. And then with the way that the final draft here, there's some other things that I'm concerned about. Because I have a feeling it's going to be passed anyway, but I want to speak piece, you know, here. So it's for the record. In your survey notes, you point out that the protective covenants do not apply to lot 7. Why is that? And all the other lots are having these protective covenants, but the lot that you're holding on to for yourselves, that one is not subject to those, which means that you're allowed to have commercial activity on there, you're allowed to have single wide trailers on there, campers, storage containers, and unregistered vehicles. All the things you prohibited everyone else from having, you're retaining that right for yourself. Could you explain that?
Well, the current use for that is Blueberry Field, right? So we didn't feel that the current use fit in with the covenants. And we didn't see any need to restrict 30-acre lot in the same way you would a 2-acre lot or a 5-acre lot or a 10-acre lot. So the market, when people want to purchase land for themselves, there's an appeal to owning a lot of acreage, but the more restrictions and prohibitions and whatnot, is viewed as a negative in a lot of cases. So we try to find a balancing act, right? Certain situations, we have covenants to try to protect property, but also not to be overbearing on property rights. So that's where we are.
All right, well, I mean, I think that that's not unreasonable. I mean, is that Blueberry Field currently being used as a Blueberry Field?
It's my understanding, or very recently.
I didn't see, I haven't seen it in the height of the season, so I don't know whether it's used or not, but I mean, it is it is the best piece of land on the entire property, without a doubt. I mean, so, and the other question I had was,
Can I just interrupt? Is the agricultural part, the Susan Morris land, but the fact that one of the covenants is non-commercial, does agriculture fall under commercial? Is
she's
that,
not part of the subdivision.
but, oh, she's not part.
No,
Even though,
That was so as outside the subdivision.
right.
but
directly
isn't,
to her.
it's not that, oh, I'm sorry, I thought lot 7 was. this was
No,
all
Yeah,
of
lot
that.
lot-
7 is
the lot that
is
Susan
the Blue-
Morris
is the
bought.
Blueberry Field.
The lot
Yeah.
that Susan Morris bought, the information's still on there because it's already been done, but
Okay.
it's not part of the subdivision.
Got it.
In follow-up here, you know, this vernal pool that's in lot 1. It says there that come spring, they'll have to kind of come in and do an assessment as to whether that's a true vernal pool or whether it's just wetlands. Who is going to do that? And how is that going to be reported back to the town to ensure that it's done properly?
Right now, we're treating it as if it is significant. But if someone wants to, the property owner, the future property owner wants to, they can conduct a survey. And if it's deemed not significant, then it will just be treated as a wetland. Right now, we're taking the most conservative approach to protecting that area without actually knowing that it needs protection.
Right, but before you sell it, don't you, I mean, the spring is right around the corner here, so before you sell it, are you gonna bring in someone to do that survey to find out so that when you do sell it, you can say, well, this is not wet, this is vernal area, and therefore it's protected in a very different way than it would be if it was.
We're gonna sell it to them under the worst case scenario for them. This is,
Uh,
you know, we're representing that we do not know if it's significant, but right now it's being treated as if it were. The town views it as, you know, that's the way it needs to be treated. And so if you want to conduct a survey, then you can, but it's not necessary.
Well, the buyer, if I can interrupt, they have a right to buy what they want and they have the right to do what they want. It is the buyer. You know, the overarching issue here is, and there's no one a stronger supporter for the environment than us. But I do know the fact that statewide, countrywide, we need housing, we need buildings, we need people. I work at Miles Hospital, and when we try to get a person to work, a traveler, we cannot get them because there is no place within an hour almost for them to live. So I respect that, and again, I love nature, but a buyer has the right to buy that and then do what they like with it. But we need housing, we need places for people to live, and I think you can do both reasonably. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. You develop something and then all of a sudden you disrupt nature. I think if you can do both.
I agree.
Well, I agree too, except that is this the right place to do it? I mean, we do need housing, which there should be subdivisions where we can put houses that are for low income housing or hopefully stick built houses that people can afford to buy on small pieces of land. But is this the place to do it? In some place that is as environmentally sensitive as this?
I'm not sure that the planning board is the place to determine where is appropriate and where is not. I think it's the planning board's job to determine whether or not we meet the criteria for development and that it's done to, you know.
Well, part of that
Other
criteria
pieces.
is the decision around whether there is whether this is a natural or scenic area. You know, and by extension, I think, I'm not sure about this, and I think Max is gonna weigh in here about the environmental sensitivity of this area, but and apparently it has met certain standards there, but the reality is, if anyone has been to the site, and this is an issue here, I think too, I mean, that they would realize that site is not gonna hold up in terms of, drainage. It is all gonna, whatever's built there is gonna drain right into that brook. You know,
I disagree.
and that's gonna be, you disagree?
Oh,
Well,
Proper control mechanisms that can be avoided, for sure.
well, certainly would have been true if the field was still in the project. You know, with the other lots, I mean, it's a little bit, depending on where they build, you know, it's very tight.
Can I ask you, you're gonna say something?
no, go ahead.
Two questions. I wonder how much property in Maine has that same soil configuration? What percentage? I bet, since we have a lot of clay, I bet it's fairly extensive. So there's, so it's a question how people have been dealing with this type of building on this type of land for a long time. I mean, it sounds very dramatic what you're saying, but I wonder if it's in fact fairly common.
Well, 2.6% of the land being moderately well drained, only 2.6% of the entire lot is well
These
moderately
classifications
well
are
drained.
national.
Hmm?
I said these classifications for soils are done throughout our whole country. And in the state of Kansas, it's probably 98% would meet that criteria. The state of Maine, being a glacial till state, relatively recent origin, has very thin soils, and a small percentage of the state would actually qualify in that the well drained. So even though that statistic sounds very scary, the reality is in Maine that we have very thin soils. So, and 1/3 of the state is wetland.
Well, part of it has to do with the slope of the land, and part of it has to do with its proximity to the stream. I mean, it's all kind of, because it's if you even look at the map here and you look at where the town shoreline zone is, I mean, it takes up almost all of, I don't understand how you can build on lot 3. I mean, I guess you can. I don't quite understand how that line ends up over in the corner here and leaves enough space there to build in. But even in lot 6, it's 0.89.
Which is about 40,000 square
acre
feet.
there is something you can build on. The rest of that lot, which is significantly larger, is, well, I can't read this. Sorry. What is that? 3.2 acres, so only less than 1/3 of it.
State minimum lot size is 1/2 acre, which is about 20,000 square feet. So you don't need a whole lot of area to build a driveway, a house and whatnot. So, that there's plenty of area to build a home.
I suppose. I mean, if I may ask, why did you choose this particular lot?
It just met the criteria that we
Which was
look for.
If the
price?
person wanted to sell it, why would we reduce the number of potential, what do we put forward to, would be, if we want to go around Waldeboro and say like, this is a really valuable view to the public, then, and start getting those kind of things in motion maybe, so you could somehow be protected in some way, but this person wanted to sell his property.
Right, but they're selling they're selling a lot that they happen to own that, and you could, I mean, you could sell this as a single lot or 2 lots even maybe, and then divide it up in such a way that the stream is unimpacted by this development. It's when you start dividing it into, well, now what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots. 3 of which really, 4 of which, or I'm sorry, 2, 3,
Well, we
No,
have to.
sorry,
We have to assume that the state has provided protections for our water bodies.
Really? We're gonna assume, I wouldn't.
I
assume that.
believe they
That's-
have. I
for a
believe they
small
do a
water
great
body
job.
like that, I
So
think it-
look, can
Yeah.
I interject here?
Yeah.
The problem with a lot of what you're saying is that you have a better idea about what could be done with the land. And that is not the role of the planning board.
No, I don't.
And what you're supposed to be doing is confirming that the subdivision meets the law. This is a judicial proceeding, like. Just because you think there's a better way to do it, it doesn't really matter. You know, if we're complying with the state laws, as long as everything is being done right, we have to approve the projects. So you can absolutely, positively build a house on every single one of these lots. If the view is so important here, then the town could make a park, buy up everybody's houses on both sides of this. The notion that a 20-acre cornfield is so beautiful that it can't be turned into a housing lot doesn't really pass the smell test, you know? And so, like,
Brenda, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Natural, like it's scenic and natural, that's subjective, you know, that's different things to different people. So it can be very, you know, what's scenic to somebody may not be. So I don't think you can use that an argument like that.
They have made steps to make the lots bigger, more generous, so. yeah,
Well, the
but
step that they made was that Susan Morris came in and
They made these,
you
they
know,
spreaded these out too.
no, I don't think so. Really? Did you change the lots,
We could have created a much denser subdivision.
I think I remember when the preliminary was happening. I think it was either preliminary or pre-application. It was noted that there was going to be some shifting of the lot lines, at least around 5 and 6, but I can't remember the exact lots. But I remember that was a point that was brought up at a previous meeting.
We could have proposed a much denser subdivision.
What's the price range of these lots gonna be, do you think?
Well, we really haven't done a thorough market analysis, but some of the lots will be in the affordable range, for sure. But can't really give you a figure at this time.
I mean, my deepest objection is only because it's an environmentally sensitive area. And I think that putting it with poor drainage, with incredibly poor drainage, that is ultimately gonna be bad for the environment, but also gonna be hard for the buyers to actually deal with when they actually go to try to build on the property and they come looking for a building permit. And they find out that you know, that it there's
So we
all sorts
don't have incredibly poor drainage. That would be classified as severely, this doesn't classify as,
well,
but anyways.
If you go back, the buyer is gonna, obviously gonna go and check out what they wanna buy, correct?
Yep.
They're gonna look at it, they're gonna get there to do some type of study, so they know. I don't have any right to tell someone they can't buy a lot if they want, because it might overflow. Ludicrous.
Yeah, it's clear from the septic system design that quite a bit of fill will have to be brought in, right, for something like.
If it was undevelopable, it wouldn't be able to, have a approved septic site, So.
Yeah.
Streams have buffers.
I'm,
Well, I appreciate your research on all this.
you know, I've said my piece on it. I mean, I look, I'm very pro, I understand we need housing. I understand, I'm really actually pro development. And I think we need developers like you guys out there kind of creating subdivisions where we can actually get affordable housing or, but it's just this particular site that I have an issue with. I mean, I walked that land, a month ago, whatever. Really quite beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of land. But I worry about it, so hopefully everything will work out all right.
Any comments from the audience on projects? Then let's move on to moving this subdivision.
So we're basically going until we hit a blank spot and discussing those.
Yes. Because I quickly asked Maine Municipal Association about this because there's a bit of a change and they said it's encouraged to still redo a public hearing for a final plan. So I've resent out the letters to the neighbors. I put another ad in the paper and it's just ideal to go over the big changes pretty much.
And you have this too, right? You have the same board.
No. Tonight would be,
Okay.
tonight is it.
I don't think I do.
So
The 3 page, does he have it?
the checklist?
Yeah.
No, but I can give it one. The checklist was more for planning board.
We can see why we're jumping around a bit this way.
Yeah, so 3.5.1. Already gone through that. The description of the project changed in line 8. We have discussed those changes tonight already. 3.5.2, we have 2 waiver requests for stormwater and erosion control plan and for technical capacity. We already discussed why. Article 7. We already approved most of this. The developable acreage listed on the drawings now. I don't see anything else in here that changed.
Does that include the setbacks, the side and back and front setbacks to get that number?
The developable acreage, no, it excludes that area.
What's that?
It excludes those areas. Yeah.
Excludes it.
That developable acreage, it's 7.5 in the ordinance. It's focused on unavailable land, so one that you can't access. Floodways, so those that are in the designated flood maps. Unsuitability, where slopes are greater than a rise of 1 foot vertical and 4 foot horizontal, wetland soils, significant wetlands. 50% of the poorly drained soils, unless the applicant can demonstrate specific engineering techniques to overcome the limitations to satisfaction of the planning board. Then rights of way, so you're taking out whatever is an existing right of way, and then anywhere that is in a designated resource protection zone. Oh, I'm sorry, and also surface water and the other one is just a calculation, which doesn't have a place in this discussion. Yeah. That's what's being taken out.
7.12, emergency services. I think that already got addressed, right?
Fire department didn't have any issues.
Have a letter from state historic office. Work sites, that wraps up. Article 7. So Article 8, again, we have waiver requests for stormwater plan, erosion control plan. There's no earth moving being involved. Same for 8.5 phosphorus control. Don't see any reason why any of the water quality impacts would be changed. 0.6, talking about the soils at length. Map is in the drawings. 8.8.
So that's the area that I really had an issue with. I just would like to read what it says here. Aesthetic, cultural, and natural barriers will not have an undue adverse effect on scenic or natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, significant wildlife habitat identified by the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, or the municipality, or on the beginning of the habitat maps for Waldeboro, rare or irreplaceable natural areas, or any public rights for physical or visual access to the shoreline. So, and in my opinion, that it doesn't meet that criteria at all. It does have a huge impact on that. So I just want to be clear about what 8.8 says, and that it is within our purview as the planning board.
So can you be specific about that?
What?
Is
Well,
it
there's a
scenic?
bunch
Is
of-
it natural? Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, I mean, you really have to go to look at it. I mean, if you look, if you look at it, you'll see it just how the whole piece of land works. I mean, it starts from this very high point where the blueberry fields are, and then it comes down from that. And the blueberry fields are very beautiful, and hopefully they won't be disturbed because it's, increasingly we're losing our blueberry fields in Maine. And then you come down into this beautiful brook that runs through that area, and with all of these plots bordering on it, right? So, when you start building houses on that, you totally disrupt that view shed that you see, particularly from what is that road?
Old Augusta or
No,
Byler's
that's
Start to the
Byler's.
sea.
Chapel?
Chapel. Yeah, but no, Old Augusta and Chapel. You don't see it so much from Filer's, but you see it from both the other roads, because you ride right along that ridge there, and you look down across that whole, if you will, valley. That's below you there, where the stream runs through. It is for that area, that particular area, because I've driven around that area a lot, and that is one of the most scenic roads and areas that are there. The rest of it, because the way it's shaped. I just think that in the future, we should try to bring that into what is given to us as within our purview, that we should actually pay more attention to it. So we don't lose these things to overdevelopment, put it that way.
Max, does the town or the state or anybody have a working definition of exactly what constitutes aesthetic, cultural, and natural? Is that, everybody may have a different take. Does the town have an actual working definition?
The town,
Fit into that gentleman's, that's his opinion.
right, so
So what does the town or the state say?
So because of how that's written, it's interpreted in one of two ways. One is just a general consensus by the planning board or whoever's writing the permit. And then the other would be a plan that's identified by town, like the comprehensive plan or or like we have the Quarry Hill master plan or anything like that, where we're identifying key areas for that very reason. That's one of the things you put in a comprehensive plan, scenic areas that need to be preserved. We don't have any of that in the comprehensive plan that was done in 2018. Or
Earlier, I think, was it?
yeah, it was 2018, approved in 2019 by the state. Right, I digress. So that's at the local level, and then at the state level, there's beginning with habitat maps that was mentioned. But again, it's identifying the wetlands, and some of it has actual state significance that's of endangered species and whatnot. But there's also just areas that are in the shoreline zone too.
With all due respect, Max, I don't think you answered the question. What is the working definition? What is scenic, natural? That the town says, it says aesthetic, cultural, that is so open. It's just like the AD Grade project. People had many different interpretations what that building should look like. And I know we went through several iterations before we all agreed on it, because it was open to interpretation. It was subjective. So again, I'm confused on that.
Yeah, well,
It's
wasn't
always
the-
going to be subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I
know
know beauty when I see it,
Yeah,
but that's me.
Yeah, it's like porn, so you have to see it, right?
Well,
So, so we need to go out, in the future, we need to go out and look at things like, especially about a project like this, in a sensitive area like this. And actually take a look at it and then
Yeah.
decide amongst us whether it fits that
And
criteria.
I think that's an excellent point. I think that site visit, certainly maybe in this case, would be very well.
So the other way to do it is open it up to the public and have people, not even about like what we're gonna do with it in the future, but just say, like, we collected on a Facebook page. What's your favorite view driving around in Marlboro? Let's start to collect and you'll start to have consensus. This is gonna have to be the public agreement, not the five of us deciding on any kind of natural beauty issues.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's a long process and it probably deserves a committee to kind of just come up with a consensus.
Well, but in
Yeah,
the
so-
meantime, we are it though.
Right.
Yeah, so,
And to answer Johnny's question, for what the town would identify as beautiful scenic areas, or as you were saying, again, I default to if there's something in the books that actually says it, like the comprehensive plan, where we do have to specify what public areas we're trying to preserve for its visual beauty, and this isn't on it. So that's why it then comes down to just the opinion of the person giving or persons giving the approval on it. And if we want to have standards on that, that's fine. But that's got to be something that you put into the ordinance. And because to reference the 80 grade, that historic village architectural standards was intentionally left broad so that it could just be based on a case by case basis by whatever the planning board decides at the time, because the architecture over where 80 grade is being built might be different from Depot Street or closer to the industrial park in different people's opinions. And then there's Carlton. I don't know if that's something you want to.
Sure, good.
Yeah, historic reference, comprehensive plan, when we first put them together. The ordinances, when we assembled them. The visioning and the discussion that you're bringing out was looked at, maybe not to the full extent that we look at it today. We're 20 years, 25 years ago. But it went into the ordinances. That's why we have residential A. We looked at the peninsulas and looked at how those were and thought those warranted a level of protection and scrutiny here. Other areas, not quite as much. And so there was at least basic building blocks thought of that went into what you're trying to uphold and interpret now. In the future, you're seeing opportunities for further review. But what you have today, what you're reviewing today, you can only work with, as you said, that those ordinances that are on the table. And is the application meeting those ordinances? And personally, I can only say that I would be cautious of weighting heavily to perspective. You know, your job is to be more concrete in perspective.
well, you might call it judicial activism then, because the legislature has not given us the criteria that they're imposing that criteria then for us to make that decision. Right? So until they do, then we have to make that decision. We can't just let it go and not make the decision just because other people haven't decided to legislate around it. Right?
With all respect, and I don't want to distract. I've spent 50 years in attendance of planning boards in one way or the other. I've never sat on a planning board. I've sat on the legislative side in the Board of Selectmen, but some planning boards start out with a statement stating that their obligation is to interpret and uphold the ordinances that are in front of them, and their votes do not represent their personal opinion. Their votes represent whether or not the application meets the criteria of judgment that exists on paper today
Right,
for the community.
but I just read the criteria. It's in the code. That it has to will not have an undue adverse effect. So I mean, yes, it make it subjective as to what an undue adverse effect is, but it's in the code. We're required to address that. And and maybe in the past we've just said, well, we're not going to address it. We're just going to let that go because we don't want to address it. But I don't think that should be the this because we've done that in the past doesn't mean that we should be doing that in the future.
I'm not arguing or suggesting that you don't address it. Because if you don't address it and have a statement, you could not be doing your job.
Exactly.
Constructive discussion and looking over things, voicing opinion is part of the job. It is a challenge when we look across Waldeboro, not to say nearly every location has some merit under a broad statement. When you look at it that broad in the manner that you're verbalizing, at least from my perspective. So therefore, is it a critical habitat? Is it, trying to put it back into concrete definition? Does it rise to those standards? And there again, it's difference of opinions.
Right. I respect your opinion.
Same
It's
here.
well worth discussing further, but I do think we should move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have actually an item on 8.8, at the beginning with habitat maps. I know we've seen them before, but they're not in this packet.
I think we were at the first pass.
Yeah, they was brought up during the pre-application months ago. And they would have been incorporated into the final map. But I can go into the back to pull that up too.
I mean, as long as we've got them somewhere and it gets incorporated into the final, it's fine, yeah.
As you discussed the rest of these items, I can go into the back and I'll pull up my.
Remember one of the neighbors talked about a big deer.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it. I know I've seen them. I just was expecting the whole thing to be here. Packet.
I think the representation once there wasn't.
Was what?
There wasn't. I think that Brian and his pre-application indicated that there was no mapping, but you can verify that map.
That's what I had
There was a
remembered, but I
significant
don't
wildlife
know
map
for
I can go.
application.
Okay, the rest of Article 8. We already approved in the preliminary. Don't think that any of the changes to the lot layouts make a difference. Any of that.
So beginning of habitat map isn't on our checklist. Do you think
Then-
it should be, or it's just part of
Unless it's shown
8.8?
someplace else here. It is part of 8.8, but I think it's actually
It is.
somewhere else as well.
Beginning with habitat maps. Okay, yeah, it's 8.8. Okay.
Yep. Article 9, property is not being developed, so none of this really applies. Section 12, 8, something over there. So this, it's preliminary right now. So we'll have to go through line by line on these. Performance standards, we've just gone through all the performance standards. Lot size requirements. Lots are large enough. Monuments. I'm sure you
I
just
think-
had it surveyed and you got all your monuments all driven to the ground out there. Water supply. You had a statement from Hatch well drillers. I assume is also in
Yeah,
there.
it's all, the monuments there, water supply.
Oh, that's what the
So
letter on the front.
that's what
Oh,
that
yeah,
is all
that's-
about.
yeah, Great. Fire protection, we already talked about, the fire chief. I think signed off. Subsurface wastewater, test pit for new lot 7 was provided. That's the. Let's see. it's one in my- It's the, explained it.
The 31-acre parcel.
Got it. So we've got the soil tests for the other ones.
Yep.
The rest of the. Rest of the documents. Disregard this line, water body protection. Note here says refer to land survey notes, 9/10/14.
So, by the way, here's the first beginning with habitat map right up on the screen. Sorry that, and John, I'll have it screen shared in just a moment for you. But there's no deer wintering areas up in this location. This is the property we're talking about today. I believe it is. Yeah. There's just this wetland right here that you do see highlighted in the plan already, but you see this line here, that's the deer wintering areas. There's nothing up here. And I can pull up some other maps as well. Screen share that for John.
Thanks. All right, so what are our notes here say? Well, vernal pool cesspits, shoreline setbacks are drawn per plan reference or above. Site plan by Al Brick. One vernal pool is identified. I assume this is the one we were just talking about earlier, Rick.
Yep.
All natural occurring vernal pools considered significant may be preemptive approved otherwise survey of no. Current species are found inside the pool during a spring vernal pool survey. The pool will be regulated as weekly. All wetlands and lots, lot 7 shall be delineated prior to any future development. So, considering how much this lot pitches down towards the stream, I'd be surprised to learn that there are any wetlands on it.
All right, which number are we on?
12.8.8 water body protection. Reading the reference surveyor notes 9/14. Four point 8.9 groundwater. Portion of subdivision is located in the sand and gravel aquifer. Item 10. So we just talked about this. This was the other place where the habitat maps are listed. Financial and technical capacity, that's a waiver request. No proposed roads, so we don't need a homeowner association. Open space ownership. Oh, this is going to be open space.
Workable?
Before we lose track of this, should we vote on this? 12.8.
With just the one section left to go. We didn't vote on any of the sections yet, so should we just go through the last section and vote on it all?
But as I said, most of the other items that you've already reviewed were already done by the preliminary plan, so it's really just 12.8 and 12.7.
Okay.
Plus the amendments.
Yeah, let's just go to the end. We're almost there. All right, confirmed by the planner that we have an application fee that's been paid. Final application form and all required attachments. It says confirmed by planner. This is final. Where was I? Submission materials required for preliminary plan. We've already reviewed the preliminary plan. All conditions and modifications approved by planning board for a preliminary plan should be contained on the final plans. Note says refer to land survey. We've had some changes there. We do need to get the whole document like assembled together in one place. The preliminary, final. All waivers approved by the planning board should be shown on the final plan. I don't think we have anything that needs to get shown. We just have a waiver for the financial, technical, and the stormwater. Really nothing to show on the plan.
And would be included when this is all filed away.
Right. Okay. Additional studies and or materials required by the planning board. Okay, notice that C conditions of preliminary planning board approval. So you're saying the list of items that we asked for as conditions.
Yeah.
I think we already ran through that list and everything's been addressed. Signature block has been shown on the survey. Performance guarantee, that's not applicable. Location type of all markers. All on the plan. Land survey note 5 says they've all been placed. 5/8 rebar. Good. Subdivision contains any private roads. Applicable. Copies of any documents of land dedication and written evidence that the board of selectmen is satisfied with the legal sufficiency of any documents. Not applicable. 12, any conditions placed on the final plan by the planning board should be clearly listed on the plan. It's already been addressed in the preliminary plan. Item 13, appropriate documentation from DEP. For any disturbances to water bodies, not proposed. That's the end. Okay. There's nothing else.
So are we marking down revisions? We don't have any revisions, do we?
Unless you think of any tonight.
Why can't we cross that out and put our waiver in there and initial it and just have it all be done? The plan, other than another piece of paper.
Waivers are already just submitted as documents similar to what two lot subdivision did already. And this is all just gonna be filed together when it's.
Um,
Usually I'd read a findings of fact as well, but it will be the same that I did last time. The only difference is just noting that we did another public hearing for this meeting. And the notices that I sent out for February 8th and February 15th, and that I sent out notices to abutters again on February 6th.
You're gonna have a revision to the lots and the overall development size.
Yeah, I think. Would I get? I think I made an adjustment to that.
Okay.
And it just says that's changes to address conditions of approval or anything that is now. I will include that in the findings of facts that are signed next month.
Okay. I will move to approve this. With the waivers as requested for the stormwater plan. And the financial and technical capacity. Requirements.
I second it.
Any further discussion from the board? No? All right, all in favor?
John, can you just confirm if that is approving?
Proof.
Approved.
All right. So it's 4-1.
Well, hold on, John.
No, I'm proving.
All right, so was that? Did you have your hand up to approve or
No, I don't.
4-1?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So we need to sign some plans. or-
Yep, I just need to have at least one of these, do you need a copy for yourself? I know there's one for the registry, but.
One for the registry and one for our file.
I know, yeah, I know, it's been a while since you've had to deal with the big papers. Well, just need you guys to quickly sign at least 2 of them, the rest we can have signed at the end of the meeting. Then you need to sign here.
Sign in the same order. You have to sign in the same order.
So like for this and the next.
Go down through the stairs.
On the next page.
Oh, we have to sign all the copies.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
You get it easy. You have the marked area for the chair.
What the heck does that say?
Nothing.
Signature.
I can't write in cursive. With my hands. So I developed a scribble. No two are the same. It's
Dramatic.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Do you want me to just? Sign right here.
Should we do that all the time?
We usually do that for, I have a few documents that I'll actually need you guys to re-sign.
Okay, so that's been. How do you actually copy these?
They have to do the 4 copies.
I mean, how do you, there's no copy machine that that's big, is it?
No, there are. There are.
Oh, I'm not, believe me,
That's unlimited and Deborah's got it.
Yep.
wow. Pretty neat.
They cost a fortune.
So where else are you gonna get this?
Is that it?
That's it for you.
Thank you, sir.
Barbara, I'm gonna just go from bottom to top.
That's
I'm not-
confusing.
I'm about-
John's not here, so he can't take it today anyway, right?
That's right. Think of something.
Hey,
Do you know? No, I'll go there. 1 second. There's attending remotely tonight, so, if I got it, I got a signature.
can we all sign it even though,
Yeah, even though I disapprove, I just don't sign.
You're not signing it to say that you approved it, you're signing it to acknowledge the vote happened.
Right.
I remember having this, discussion before too. Oh. Right. And, John, I'll just need you to come into the town office sometime next week to just
congratulations
sign
on
on
your
here.
baby.
Expect.
Right. I'll just coordinate with them if you wanna get to the next item.
Sure. 110 Robinson Road. You're up.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
Good. So, this is in regards to zoning permit for proposed building on 110 Robinson Road. And, at our last meeting, we were pretty much all in accordance, with the exception of a better plan for soil erosion and sedimentation control, well as a more descriptive map of the site and any areas outside of it that might be affected. And I've since provided an updated map as well as a more cohesive response to the items around soil erosion and sedimentation.
I had a couple of questions. In the packet that we got here, item 3.5.2.10 about technical capacity. It says that, you have moved into the site. As Peter Chablowski's son moved in November 2022, and another son.
That-
moved in
It's another-
February 20.
There's another house. on the-
There's another house on the property.
Yes,
Existing
It's a big
house.
property.
It's outside of what we're talking about here. That's a house existing,
Is it
So-
actually a separate lot or is it just like,
same lot, yeah.
it's the same lot, but it's way over in the corner?
That,
Aren't
that
these
detail is
aren't
kind of impertinent, honestly.
aren't these required to show the entirety of the lot?
The house is way over here.
It's just,
I know, it's no exactly.
There should be a map, at least in the preliminary application, that shows the entire lot.
Question answered. Just to refresh me, you're gonna do the seminar on how to dissect it.
Yeah, that'll be,
I
That's
know, I'm-
part of the
I'm
plan
serious,
for
I
it.
remember, but you know, when you get my age, you know, memories, but is that's just the,
it's, yeah, for agriculture and food related activities and
so would it
some
be?
small music events.
Livestock, vegetables, or more people? I'm just trying to get a point on this.
Kind of diversified ag. I mean, it's not totally defined, but we're planning on having a lot of workshops and events based around ag and land-based activities.
Again, one question that, say you do dissect the hog or show how to do it. What do you do with the entrails and the offal after you're done with these?
Some will be used, some will be composted.
It'll be compost.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So you think your written description here covers the issues of stormwater management?
Yes,
Does this say we went by the did you forward him thing that Mark sent all of us for DEP
Yes,
standards, and that's what they
Yes.
worked out with?
and Mark's on via Zoom right now. We can also talk about in case there's any questions for him. At least I hope he's still there.
I think he is.
Still here.
Okay,
so I've outlined any activities that may disturb soils. Well as what we've done to control erosion and any, as work progresses, you know, what we're gonna do to, you know, control the flow and as well as anything that would need to be proactively done. You know, in changing conditions with, you know, stronger weather events, et cetera.
Yeah, you use that phrase a lot, but unfortunately you have to have everything in place before the stronger weather events happen. But you've used that phrase quite a bit in this report. What to say?
Since we're talking about the stormwater plan, let's just dive in. One of the things that I'm unclear on is what the limits of soil disturbance are. And there's a line in here about the limits of soil disturbance. If you write about it, but you don't show what they are on the drawings. You've got a dashed line here. I'm unsure if that's what the soil disturbance area is. Also, looking at your map that shows your setbacks from the wetlands.
Mhm.
And it's sort of hard to understand what it's out here. I'm trying to remember, the setback from the wetlands is not related to the soil disturbance. Right, our setback is related to the building. Correct?
Yeah.
I'm also unclear about where you are at in the construction on this. I know that a bunch of this work has been done. I'm pretty sure the road's been put in. Sounds like you've already put some culverts underneath the road. Is that correct?
So the dashed line area that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is a parking area. It's gonna remain as soil and grass. It was pre-existing, as well as the road. That was pre-existing, and I outlined what was done to improve the road for any construction activities. And the main area of any disturbance is that the barn site. The red block with the area around it is the actual build site.
So why'd you put the silt fence there? It looks like the water's flowing. To the sort of to the left on the page, why'd you put the silt fence down there?
It basically based on grade. So the topography where the stone retaining wall is, it goes down at about a 2% slope from there, going generally southwest. So the silt screen,
Is on the page.
uh,
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, you're supposed to show the directions of flow, which tells us as the reviewer. Where the BMP should go. You know.
and you have this one, right?
What we're looking at.
So the
I have something similar.
the main-
but I don't have that drawing now.
Oh.
It's. Unless that's like a zoomed in version of this drawing.
yeah, mine printed differently. I don't know why, but yeah.
That's the one.
That's the
I'm
one.
looking at, yeah, okay. So has the concrete been poured for this?
There is a pad, yes.
One of the things you're supposed to have on this is a concrete washout area, but if you've already poured the concrete, then. All right, we had a whole discussion last time about spill containment, and I don't see that anywhere in your plan.
And I guess I didn't see that item on the 8.2 soil erosion responses, so I didn't.
3.2 soil erosion responses.
8.2.
Okay. Yeah, so the set of regulations that we're dealing with here is the DEP stormwater and erosion control guidelines. And that this is sort of summarized in item 8. 8.2.2, it says at a minimum, the following should be discussed and provided. That list is not an exhaustive list of everything that is incorporated by reference. So that's probably, you know, concrete washout probably doesn't appear there. They also don't list every single of the required BMPs in the list. There's no stabilized construction entrance that's called out in this list. There's no silt sacks that are called out in this list. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm going off of my knowledge of what the DEP requirements are.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
So the road leading into the actual build site would be considered the construction entrance, which
no,
is stabilized.
No, that's a stabilized construction entrance is it's an erosion controlled BMP that is designed to knock dirt off of tires before you drive out onto the road. So it's a very prescriptive thing. There's a very specific size rock you're supposed to use. If the road is already done, then I don't really care because you're not really going to be tracking extra dirt out into the road.
Correct.
So I kind of want this to be over with. For some reason, make you go put it in if the road's already done.
And it's lumber being delivered at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really pretty. Item 9 about where your collected sediment will be disposed. That's you didn't really answer the question there. You're gonna get dirt in your silt fence. The question is asking you, where's it gonna go? You know, are you gonna send it to landfill and just spread it on site and seed it? That was the answer. That's what the question is at. appreciate that you're going to be inspecting these daily. The DEP guidelines, I believe, are weekly and after a rain event. If you want to check them out every day, that works too. Dust control measures, I don't think you're really gonna have dust there, because you don't really have a lot of, unstabilized soils. It sounds like the soils. I don't think you have some stuff that's not permanently stabilized now. that's
Yes.
Mulched.
Yes, mulch, silt fence, anything is needed, and then come spring, have a major landscaping and re-veg plan, so.
Dust control is about traffic usually. If you have a huge area of unstabilized soil, you'll get, wind-borne erosion. I can't imagine you're gonna have too much to do there, but I think probably wetting down that road might be the only thing you don't need dust. That was basically my comments on the erosion control plan.
Yeah, I have to say, it's a small building. The slab is in. Mark and Max have been to the property and looked at it and aren't raising any red flags about what they saw. I have no problem with approving this as is, considering they've come in 3 times, so I've tried really hard. I think we all learned something about storm management plans. We didn't quite get there with this one, but as I would have liked to have seen you take this and show it on the drawing a little bit better. But anyway, it's a small project. It's not, it's not affecting any of our neighbors. It's set back enough from fragile areas, so I think we should go ahead and approve it.
Yes.
Spot. Right on the front, it's a brief description of the solar project going on 36/40. Small event space with a small commercial kitchen. Do I understand that to mean you're gonna be selling food from that area?
That's not planned, but we're basically, if we're gonna go to all the effort of this, we're
Right.
gonna have it as an option. But no, the activities we're trying to conduct are not based around selling products.
Max, does that change it at all if there's gonna be a small commercial kitchen? Does that
It depends what the planned use of the kitchen. I mean, everything you're describing, you say it's all farm to table dinners and some live music. The commercial kitchen, you just describe what it's probably going to be used for on a day-to-day basis.
In terms of basically for our workshops, there'll be, around butchery and, food preservation, activities like that. And yeah, for, hosting dinners and small food events.
Yeah, there'll be specific rules they need to follow from the state, like certain water temperatures for all that stuff for washing up.
But if the use does change, then we have that discussion. This is more of a point of order for me. Have we ever done the checklist for them in the past, or
No.
would you like me to try and burn through this?
Sure.
All right, first things first, are there any conflicts of interest? Seeing none? Does the applicant have standing? They did provide a deed, and I believe they did provide a deed. Yes, they did provide a deed, and it is in the rural area. I read the findings and facts in previous meetings. I don't think you guys need me to read through the whole thing, because the only difference on there is just saying that this meeting is happening as well. Notices went out for this one as well. Now for the actual items. This was accepted by the town, by the planner. Were submitted on forms provided by the planner. The applicant information was provided on the site plan review application form. Property location and details were provided, and they are on the site map, 110 Robinson Road. Verification on ownership, warranty deed was provided. These were paid to the planner, well, to the town office, but given to the planner. Estimated cost and construction, page 1 of standards outlines that. Description of project, workshop and event space promoting farming and earth-based skills. Anticipate start and completion dates were provided with an expectation to complete by September 2024. All other local, state, and federal permits are required. Septic and building permits will be needed. Site maps were provided, updated maps, as you all have, as well as the maps that were given in past readings. Estimated water and sewage provided, estimates were provided in the standards. Evidence site can connect to sewer, there is no sewer nearby. HH 200 form was provided if on septic. CEO, I have CEO waiting on planning board approval before he can authorize that. I take it that's still the case, Mark?
Yes, that's correct.
Vehicular and pedestrian traffic provided, and that is in your standards. Other information provided. No other additional information was provided. Do I have a motion to approve 3.5.1 as presented?
Oh, can you skip back to the septic plan?
Sure.
What's happening with the septic plan?
The HHE 200?
Yeah.
That is on file and it's just not approved yet because Mark wanted to wait for the planning board to approve this first, because it does specifically say it's to treat for an event center, which is what this is.
When the application was put forward, I held off on processing it because I did not want them going forward and spending the $315 if the project was not going to be approved by the planning board. So I have the plan. I have not approved it because we're waiting to for the planning board to make a decision on the project.
Okay. I'll move to accept the items of 3.5.1.
A second,
10 seconds.
for Johnny first,
Favor?
and I see John's hand up there. That's unanimously. Next is 3.5.2. Title block was provided on,
Now, are you going back to this old plan? For that,
that was provided with the title block.
but this is from before, not today. I don't know if it matters really, but,
I can have this one updated with the title block if you would like. I just had it on that one just to combine the two together to show the contour maps as well. And the, well, I guess he had septic. So
it looked like the rectangle's different. Doesn't really matter, but it's not updated.
it's your call, it's your call on the title block, whether you'd like me to just combine the two
I think we should get a stamp.
stamp
Yeah, we can stamp on such a situation and then we can just
for that one.
fill that in.
So title block. That more of a condition for the board, because I then won't, it just won't be signed tonight, but next month. That the title block would be put on the updated map that was provided.
Up to you, boss. Here's our choices. Sign one from before that's not quite accurate.
I don't see any point in us signing
Sign
something
it
that's not
later.
accurate.
So I can make that a condition to have that on there. That would be,
Yeah, I guess the main difference is just the location of
the red block and
the red block in
Cell block.
within the building area.
so. And actually. The title block's on there, but the planning board signatures, that's the other one. So name of engineers and other professional provided, and that is on the site plan application form. And item 3, planning board approval block, as well as the revision block and the conditions of approval. That will all be set as a condition to have approved through a revision. Building and structure drawings, waiver request because let me make sure I got the. Oh. Says it can be provided, but I think it was the same boat as the septic plan where it's just on the. Mark, you might have to step in on this one. Is there a building permit on file yet, or is that?
No, again, the building permit could not be issued until the planning board goes through their process first.
Okay,
It's not that we can't issue one, it's just that we're holding off until they get approval from the planning board.
so that's the way.
But building structure drawings isn't usually our purview. So why?
Sometimes that for 3.5.2, because that's always supposed to be a planning board application, sometimes it's supposed to be when we talk about big elaborate structures like when Maine Health is gonna be here. They're gonna have to
Can we
show it.
just do not applicable or waiver, whatever? Not applicable might work on a small project like this.
That to the board. So I'll have it as not applicable, and then when we get to the final decision, people can weigh in. Estimated peak hour traffic on average, no more than 50 people. Site map prepared by professional engineer or architect. This was a waiver request because the map was still done on GIS software. Stormwater erosion control plans, gone over that. Technical and financial capacity, description provided on standards. Contour lines on the maps, that's the ugly map you were all just talking about. And then the fire protection provisions. I'll get to this with 7.12. But chief's only item was the lockbox. I believe a lockbox. I thought I had it in front of me, but I don't. And that's all I have for 3.5.2. So the motion would be to approve it with conditions for putting a planning board block, revision block, and conditions of approved block on the updated map.
We also don't have a letter from the fire chief.
No, I just saw it today, so why I don't have that letter. But I can get the letter from him as well. That would also be under 7.12.
Yeah, I'll move to accept 3.5.2. Provisions that will be provided with a drawing with planning board block, vision block, conditions of approval block, and the fire protection provisions.
Second,
I second it.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, and was that for that approval, Eric? Okay. Just want to be sure. All right. Then we get to Article 7. Buffer areas, images. This was when I did my site walk and the last time I presented this. There is still a tree buffer between the parking lot and the road. And everything else is, and then the property you see with the red block does reserve screening from the public right of way. Construction standards, buildings required to follow state building codes, because we are MUBEC. Electrical standards, no electrical disturbances are expected. This is not located in the historic village district. This is a 2016 square foot building that is constructed on a 96.26 acre parcel. Noise must comply with noise standards. Lighting, exterior lighting will be shielded, aimed downwards to comply. Refuse disposal septic will be installed and garbage will be removed on a weekly basis as described. Sanitary provisions, 2 restrooms will be on private septic system. Signage, any signs will need permit from the code enforcement officer. Storage materials shall be securely locked. Emergency services, I went over this. I might just have to quickly confirm this with Paul in a second. But I believe. No, actually, because now I remember, because you do live on the property, correct?
Yes,
Paul didn't have anything then because one of the owners of the property will be available to access the site in case of emergency. I'm sorry for that. And then archaeological historic sites, site is not on an identified historic location.
That's a letter for that.
Um, I do not have that, but that, I can make that a condition that the building permit can wait for the, Maine Historic Preservation Office. Because we don't have it tonight.
Do you have that letter?
No. Not that I know of. I mean, I wasn't involved in that aspect of it, in all honesty.
That can just be a condition that the building permit would be held off until we hear something from the state office.
So the argument on the buffering is that the existing vegetation provides adequate buffering.
And you're speaking about the parking area right by Robinson Road
I'm
in the
talking
general.
about the whole property.
Yeah, so there's approximately like a 60-foot buffer from the parking area. And then you basically can't even see the site from the road.
What about the neighbors?
And there's a significant buffer there as well, yeah, forested buffer.
Did we get those photos included in this when we sign off on the whole package? Something that would normally be on the drawings. Okay. So. I'll move to accept Article 7 with the condition that we get the letters for 7.12 emergency services and 7.13 historic sites.
We don't need emergency services because they live on the site, right?
Right,
I still need a statement.
yeah, I'll get the statement from
For every building that's being built, we need Paul to give us a statement on personal property.
That's a requirement.
The requirement is more for when he is recommending a lockbox or if an upgrade needs to be done for the water supply in case there's a fire. Most cases, he will say you need to do a lockbox because especially if it's a commercial building where no one's living there, like to have access. But this was one of those cases that was rare because someone is going to live on the property that he won't need a lockbox there. But as Brendan says, I'll get the letter confirming that, and if it's recommended otherwise,
We don't actually have to have the letter. It says all applications will be reviewed by fire chief, police chief, EMS chief. Chiefs may make a recommendation at their discretion regarding the impact the proposed project may have on their performance. Municipal authority may choose to accept recommendations by the chiefs if this determines to be feasible and within their scope of review. We don't actually have to have the letter. And we've had cases in the past where the chiefs have looked at it and just waved it off, right? So, yeah, if you're saying that that's the case here, then we don't need to have 7.12 as.
Okay. In that case, the motion would be to approve Article 7 with one condition to include photos to address the buffer areas, and then one condition to get a letter from the Maine Historic Office before a building permit is issued. So
Second. All in favor?
on his hand up. Next, Article 8. Stormwater management and erosion control were the two items that talking about the most. Changes or topic or further discussion on that?
The only thing that I think really needs to happen there is you need to have a spill plan.
Okay.
Look at the DEP regulations, and get some pig mats, floor dry, that kind of stuff. Because you're done with site work, but you're still gonna have deliveries. You're gonna have hydraulic equipment on site, and the potential for a spill right next to the wetlands. You need to have a spill kit ready in case something goes wrong.
Agreed.
So condition to have a spill plan submitted to the CEO before building permits issued. And then hydrogeologic assessment of groundwater impacts, it's gonna be under 2,000 gallons. Water quality impact, there's no proposed above ground fuel tanks or other untreated waters being discharged. Phosphorus control, that's a waiver because this is in a Great Pond watershed. 8.6 soils, it says refer to the forestry plan, which I think was an earlier map. And I don't know if it's still here. See it. Just mark that for now. The rest. Air and water pollution, wood burning is the only potential discharge. Aesthetic culture and natural values, no construction on habitats and aims to be agriculture business in the rural district or agriculture related business in the rural district. Flood zone, this is going to be located over 166 feet from the closest floodplain. River, stream, wetlands, you can see that on the updated maps. Flooding requirements, water quality protection, culverts and vegetation have been installed. Any further discussion for Article 8?
Habitat maps.
Let me pull up. It just pull up the online map. It just makes this a lot easier.
Doesn't look like it was in the past applications.
So. The habitat map would be over here. We can see my mouse. And this is actually the wetland we've been talking about this whole time. The pink area you see there is the riparian habitat. So it's that 250-foot wide strip from the wetlands. And so when you look on your map, that's this green area that you're seeing right, 58 feet from the, 58 feet.
That's the setback. Or that's the edge of the zone, the
That's the edge.
riparian zone.
Yeah, that's the 250 feet away from that's the 250 foot buffer from the wetlands. So the motion would be to approve Article 8 with condition to have a spill plan submitted to the code enforcement officer for a building permit before a building permit is issued.
We still need to get the habitat map in the. application.
Okay.
But we need the soils information, right? That's never been provided. What is this forestry plan?
I think that was in the first copy that we got.
Once I actually have all of the past ones with me, but I don't, let's see, I think they would call it forestry plan. but-
You know, you've had one done, right?
And there was a map submitted that did outline all the soils. And I did outline the habitat in the updated map. With the green area labeled as forested wetland, and the blue area as wetland. The other one, yeah.
This thing?
Yep.
So what are you saying? The blue is?
The green and the blue, it should be labeled as forested wetland and wetland.
Oh. Maybe I just never updated it. And the standards. And standards on page 5 at the very bottom. It was changed to soil type is Tunbridge liming complex, 3 to 8% slopes rock.
Oh, I saw that note.
Was that updated and based on, soils map online?
Yes, that was, also based on our forestry plan. That was submitted to us with that info.
That's trying to see if I found it. Maybe you did submit it and I just misplaced it, but
So that's
Yeah.
right in the building area. That's.
That soil type,
Your entire property is the same?
mostly.
Yeah.
There's like a couple far-reaching areas that are,
be
I can't
different.
remember the exact soil type, but that's the primary soil type comprising like 80+% of the. topsoil.
Hey.
Further questions for Article 8?
8.11 buffer requirements for water quality. Vegetative buffer shall be located between all disturbed areas of development and all water bodies. The wetlands. So where does our vegetative buffer between this development site and wetland?
The existing one is untouched forest.
I thought the forest was in wetland.
Forested wetland.
The wetland can be its own buffer.
Well, it's forest. Basically, the entire area outside of the build site is forest. And then it does lead into forested wetland.
It's a good question. I mean, you don't have to, I don't think you do have to buffer between yourself and wetland buffer. I think that we're asking that.
You're not
Are we
calling
in
this a
our- in our
buffer, you're
ordinance?
calling it a wetland.
South of the site is forest. And then it continues to be forest. At a certain point, it becomes what would be defined as forested wetland.
It's that 250-foot setback. And as it goes uphill, this is an incline, it goes from wet to a different type of forested wetland.
So is it
It's still wetland.
your drawing calls it out as a wetland. Is this forested wetland on the drawing a wetland, or is this a buffer beyond a wetland?
So if you,
It's not the
From
wetland,
the-
it's the buffer.
from the map that happened last time, there was this dark green area that he has. That's the forested wetland he's mentioning. And then this light green area is where it becomes a significant wetland. The forested wetland is. I'm sorry, my brain's starting to shut. The darker green forested wetland, that's the one that does have that protected vegetative buffer. And the light green is where we start getting into the more sensitive habitats.
The 250 setback is from where?
250-foot setback is from the edge of the wetlands. That's, or even further south from that map. A quick question, the silt screen, is that going to remain there when the construction's done, or that?
Up until the soils are stabilized, vegetated. And at that point, it'll be removed.
I think that could probably be the way of addressing it, that when the silt screen is removed, it's replaced with vegetative buffer between the clearing, forested wetlands we're talking about, because that still has a bit of a gap between it, if that's the concern.
So we've got the brook.
Yep.
We've got 250-foot setback, but as you see from this drawing, it varies. So that's probably the 250, but this is drawn fatter because it's also wet. I mean, why is that like that? So in other words, what is this? Is this our setback line or is that the wetlands? Do we have another
It's,
town map we
it's
can?
forested wetland protected in a separate, as a separate category of wetland?
What would happen is a forested wetland is something where if there's a lot of concern about it, the DEP could go out and test it to see if it is a significant wetland, whereas the light green is something where you would definitely want to have DEP come out to make sure it is significant wetland. One just has more drainage and more sensitive likelihood of more sensitive habitats. It's kind of like what we just described with the historic sites and everything. Maine Historic Office is going to have data. Same with the DEP. They're going to have data based on what likely is, or beginning with habitats. They're going to have this data based on what they have. And if there has to be assurance, someone will come out and test the site.
But is there a setback from that? What is referred to as forest wetland? Like, if, for instance, is it 250 foot, whatever it is, 250 foot setback from the brook and from the wetlands themselves. So it meets that criteria, but then there's the forest and wetlands. And so is there a setback that is a specified setback from that?
The only thing I can think of is 75 feet from some brooks, and that's something I'm actually gonna look at Rebecca and see if that sounds familiar, because I know there's been some times where I've talked with the DEP and there is a stream that we don't have in our shoreland, and 75 feet is usually the buffer they have. Does that sound right?
So you'd apply the same rule to forest, wetlands, 75 feet?
Not with the forested wetland.
No, but that's what my question is. I know there's a 75 foot.
From that
setback
stream,
from the
right.
Stream, but you're saying, but it's actually from the wetlands, it's 250 feet.
From the wetlands that I showed on the beginning with habitat, that the
Right, this blue one here. Forested wetland, something different. I mean, that's when there is
right.
a prescribed setback from forested wetland, or whether that's just,
Not forested wetlands, but if
Right,
it's within
okay.
75 feet, you could ask the DEP to come in, take a look, make sure that it's all good.
So our buffer width that's required in 8.11.2.5 is related to the slope of the land. We don't really, I don't know what that is.
If I can interject for a minute.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that people understand there's a difference between a like a vegetative wetland and stuff like that that is not part of the shoreland zone. Shoreland zone is when you get into the 250 foot setback, the 250 feet, and then the setback requirements for shoreland zoning. What we're referring to on this project would actually be setback from a wet body, which if there's any questions on where that begins, then DEP would actually be able to come out and give a definitive area. Max and I did walk it just to make sure that we felt comfortable that where they were going to be building and stuff like that was not going to encroach in anything. But they can definitely get DEP to come in and get a determination on where that exact point is if needed.
well, that'd be a hardship at this point, if they've already poured the foundation.
DEP does the setbacks. I'm confident that there's not going to be any issues as far as the setbacks. When we walk the property, that it is very distant into the woods before you start running into anything. Max can probably explain to you a little bit better about that, but if you wanted an exact, pin on the ground where that is, DEP, runs a program where they can come out and delineate that for somebody.
Just trying to understand these maps, Mark. Because it says, I'm assuming, is this the brook on this map?
Light green.
Yeah, is that the brook? And then it says 168 feet to the building area, which would be within the 75 feet, so you're probably okay, but,
No, the light green isn't, the light green is just a lot more damp, soils.
but it's, yeah,
This is the wet, it's a
The
wetland.
significant wetlands.
Right.
And then the darker green is the forested wetlands.
So going back to the thing that I said earlier, the requirement for the buffer here. It's talking about the distance between the disturbed soil and the edge of the wetlands. And we don't have a dimension of what that is. Because the dimensions on the drawings that we've got so far are all measured from the corner of the building, not from the corner of this.
But Mark and Max have been out there to the site and they've already sort of, in essence, approved it. I think we should just accept their eyes on the project as being adequate. So,
well, I agree. I just wish that, that better information came to us, because we've now spent 3 meetings on this.
I'm really sort of rethinking our position about waiving having a design professional do drawings.
I'm not. Given how far away it is.
Look at how many man hours we've spent on this, that
I
all of this
know,
information would be on the
This-
drawing if they're. the
I would,
engineer had
I
done
would
it.
like to also just say this is one of the reasons I want to make sure we do the checklists even, because this is what happened with the last 2, where we focused on one item till the end of the meeting. And I said at both ones, are we sure there's nothing else you want to have them focus on? Because at least going to the checklist, if we find an issue,
It's a good point.
we can say, this is the main issue we
Yeah,
need
right.
to address. So that's why I emphasize this checklist going forward. Even if there's a big problem saying, no, I'm definitely not gonna approve it because of this one item I pointed out. I still want to make sure we just go through the checklist in case there's any minor items.
Even if it's not.
To be fair, last time it was things like 8:20.
Yeah,
All right,
Okay,
so
so,
Article 8. Buffer requirements for water quality protection. If concern is no vegetative buffer, then when the silt fence is removed or silt screen is removed, requirement to replant some vegetative buffer there, if you require.
I think we just need a clearer understanding of what's going on here, like where's the edge of the disturbed soil? How far away is that from the wetland? What is the slope between the disturbed area and the wetland, so we know what the minimum. Because we got a table here in the land use ordinance, depending on the slope, the required buffer distance changes. And we don't have elevation drawings of that show us what the slope is there, so.
That is outlined in my soil erosion responses. The percentage of slope, and then also in this map, it's not super obvious, obviously, but there are contour lines describing it. On average, 2% slope.
Well, if you can figure it out. Plan it to us.
where is it in your, what section is it in?
8.2 soil erosion responses, item 5.
Are you talking about this thing? This is your topo?
No, the map that Max created would be this one.
Where we talk about the dark green and the light green. That has 2-foot contour lines.
Okay. All right, so what are our conditions here? We need a spill plan. Need soils map. The habitat map.
Archaeology?
Is that an Article 8?
No, that,
Side it was earlier, sorry.
Oh, we're still, I didn't realize we got a page left. Okay,
So for Article 8, I have the spill plan for before CEO issues building permit. Soils map, before planning board signs next month. I take it as well as the beginning with Habitat. Is that okay?
need an explanation on 8.11. What the buffer is. That's that. Find a way of explaining what it is, to make it make sense. Then.
We're talking a vegetative buffer between the disturbed soil and,
The wetland.
okay, the significant wetland.
So I'll move to accept Article 8 with those conditions on 8.1, 8.6, 8.8.
I second it.
Discussion? All those in favor? All right,
That's John's hand up. Then Article 9, traffic impact analysis. Proposal would not be applicable since it doesn't have 50 parking spaces or will generate over 100 vehicles at peak hours. Street access, driveways, street road construction standards, no streets are proposed. Driveway permits must be obtained by from the Public Works Department. And then parking and loading. I have 25 parking spaces are proposed, roughly 30 feet from the road. Although I think that was an earlier, that was a typo.
Yeah.
70 feet. System. That's just it for Article 9.
accept Article 9. Is
Second it.
all in favor?
All right.
Finally, specific standards. 10.4.2 is the agriculture related business items. It's proposed use and accessory to the principal agricultural use. There is an existing farm nearby on the same parcel. And what is the anticipated daily vehicle traffic? Projected to have 5 to 40 trips, which is a small scale. Then 10.30 is the event center item, and that's just listing off the restrictions that they will have.
How are we squaring up the 5 to 40 trips with the total occupancy of the site?
That was,
Didn't we say there was gonna be up to 50 people?
thank you. What is the anticipated vehicle traffic? I had 25 parking spaces. The existing 50 people. Might have been
25 parking spaces.
Yeah. I mean, for peak number of people to be there, there was anticipated to be 5 to 50 people, but 25 parking spaces is the number allowed.
Okay.
I think even if it is, check.
All right.
Even if we was to exceed 40 vehicle trips, that would just be something that warrants planning board approval. So the only difference between whether it's under 40 or over 40 is including an agricultural related business right now. Anyways.
When did that limit of time get put in the ordinance?
For which item? The event center?
Yeah, shall not have events exceeding 8 hours with the exception of setup and breakdown.
That was determined when this was being created back in 2020.
for event,
for an event,
special permit event kind of thing?
just the event centers in general. This was something that Bill and I were talking about, and the land use committee wanted to specify a certain number of hours. Although that 8 hours would. The minor event centers would be, I'm sorry, 8 hours is only for the minor event center, so something that's more of a supplemental use or complementary use. And then exceeding that 8 hours is just for someone who's primarily being at the center. So again, if this was to grow and scale beyond 8 hours for events, then this would just be a larger major event center.
We should probably look at that at some time because that's 9 to 5 and setting up and breaking down from something that's,
It excludes setup.
Yeah.
no, I thought it said included.
No event shall exceed 8 hours in duration, excluding setup and breakdown in a calendar day.
It says exceeding.
That was probably a typo then.
Yeah.
It says
I'm-
excluding, it might say
Yeah, the
exceeding.
text of the land use ordinance says no event shall exceed 8 hours in duration, excluding setup and breakdown in a calendar day.
Excluding, okay.
Yes, that was my mistake.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I'm doing these, fresh off hook when I'm getting a special
Be
case.
argumentative with you guys, but you know. Okay,
All right, I'll move to accept Article 10. Discussion.
Eric. Any discussion, all those in favor? Oh, all right. So the motion will be to approve the application with the following conditions. Planning board revision and conditions of approval block will be on the updated map that you've been provided. Photos will be provided to show the buffer areas of the parking area. And a letter from Maine State Historic Preservation has to be provided before a building permit is issued to confirm that the site doesn't have historic value. A spill plan must be issued to the CEO before a building permit is issued. Soils map must be included before a permit is issued. Beginning with habitat maps must be provided as well. Explanation on the buffer between the development and significant wetland must also be provided. And that's it. That is the motion, if anyone would like to say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second
I
it.
second it.
We all
Or Barbara
second it.
first. Any further discussion? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hand up, passed unanimously, all done. All right,
All right.
get the signatures and I'll talk to you later about follow-up.
Thank you. And so basically, I'm gonna submit what we need as well as any revisions, and then this time next month, it'll get signed. Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Let's say I'll send you an email to.
It's,
Okay.
We haven't broken any records.
well, I've honestly learned a lot in this whole process, so.
Me too.
We all have.
That is like. Go that stuff down, I still keep. So figure it out.
Oh,
All right.
so I know it's 8:10. I just have two, just letting you know about next month. If you want to stick around, you can. Just letting you know for next month. I do have the Fuller Farm potentially coming in for a formal approval. And then I will have a pre-application from Dow Furniture for a warehouse they would like to build. That's a pre-application. The other item is I will probably need to hold a public hearing in late March for the land use revisions regarding LD 2003 and other minor changes that have happened. Items that have been brought up either by residents or by the planning board this past year. So just letting you know that there'll be the meeting on the second Thursday as usual, but I may need to hold one on this fourth Thursday, depending on what the select board set up for me
Of March.
of March.
Keep us posted.
Do you need a quorum at those kind of things?
Um. If you guys would like to give some last minute opinions on that, then yes, I would need a forum. At least 3 people would be appreciated. Take care. And that's something that could be discussed at the next planning board meeting. We'll also check with MMA to see if they do need that.
Next planning board meeting, it's like, wait a minute, what is it? What's the date? Right around the corner.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when when you.
Yeah.
All are willing to accommodate me and my terrible life.
But tell me the date.
March 14th is when I have the next meeting.
Okay.
And you want to push that. So you,
No, I'm saying that would happen for the 2 site plans that are happening, and then March 28th might be a
special.
special meeting. I will let you know more about that at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Minutes?
It's not funny, but
I feel
they're great minutes, by the way.
I didn't have any comments on the minutes. I read them today. I had a couple little typos that I gave to Rebecca before the meeting started. Did anybody else have any notes on the minutes?
For the last one, and then we had one from November, right?
November.
I'm good at both of them. I'd be willing to vote on both of them.
All right, I'll move to accept both of those minutes, November and January.
January, yeah. And Johnny seconded. All those.
All in favor?
Right.
All right,
Awesome. Okay.
I assume we have no comments because everyone wants to leave, so let's adjourn.
Okay.